Good evening, everyone. You ready to go?
I don't, you have the microphone on or off?
Yeah, we will, so that, but. Test. Yeah, we're good. Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Perfect. We're gonna have the Firefly video next week. That's where I was. And the big thing that we wanted to focus on this evening was we had put out a posting to local, businesses, contractors, et cetera, to, kind of work with us, I guess, on further like refining some estimates and gathering some additional data. And so we have those submissions in front of us, and we also received them via email, so we need to kind of talk through those and decide who we want to move forward with, who we do not want to move forward with. And then the second piece of this evening is to come up with questions that we want to pose to those individuals that we want to speak with, so we can have kind of a formal process there. Anyone, am I missing anything? Anything else we need to talk about? You guys think so?
My only other comment is any comment regarding water damage
Mm-hmm.
to the roof.
So can I throw a wrench in like I always like to do?
Yeah.
I think in reading some emails, talking to some people, I think we're ahead a little bit of where we need to be. I think we can go through and look at this and come up with who we eventually want to work with. But until we know honestly the will of the town, I'm not sure if we want to spend days and months putting time in if it's not the direction they want us to go. Because we've only heard from 165 people, give or take, is right, is what we've heard from here that we could physically count. So if we put a few months into down the road of, we're gonna renovate this, and everybody comes with their plans, and we have some ideas, and then we find out that over 50% wants a new one because they don't want to spend the extra money, we've wasted a whole bunch of time. So while going forward, obviously, we can't get it on a ballot. That passed months ago. But the comprehensive plan, which you were both part of, right, was extremely successful with the mailer that was sent out. It's $2,800, $3,000, $4,000, thank you, $4,000 to send the mailer out to everybody in town. And at least get the direction the town wants us to go, because I don't think it's the decision that the five of us are gonna make. I don't think the five of us should make the decision on the town hall is here or the town hall is somewhere else. We did it on the police station, and I don't think you should here. So we can work forward, but I really think we need to somehow find a way to engage more than 155 people. And I think a mailer is worth it.
So, okay, so I have a question. So I guess like I thought that our process was like, we had the initial public hearing to just kind of like give us a little bit of a direction. And that because there was such a big gap with the information that we did get from Port City, there's a huge difference between build new and renovate, that we felt like we needed to kind of like, and this is me just kind of like speaking out the fact that like you wanted to sort of confirm or like validate some of those numbers, because this is like a super emotional topic, but it also is a big financial topic. It's both. And I think residents don't necessarily always have the appreciation of the financial component of it.
You and I are on the same page with that one, both sides, just like the traffic lights, right? There's a lot of emotion thrown in that. But the people the people that we want to work with or that have offered this up, what I was looking for was an engineering report of this building, of the state it's in, what it needs legitimately. No one's gonna do that for us that's doing it for nothing. They're gonna give us a conceptual look of what this building could be, and we can do this and we can do this, but we need someone to tell us what everything that's wrong in this building, other than the stuff we know when we pick apart every week, right? It leaks, we know the elevator's not good, we know that the facade's crumbling, we know the roof is iffy. But in order for us to make an intelligent decision, we need to have all that data before we get there. And to have someone give us workup estimates right now based on what they think the building is versus what we know the building is where I'm struggling right now. Because again, Mr. Bernier, they're not gonna give us, his company is not gonna give us an engineering report for free. And I would not expect them to. That's a lot of money and a lot of time. So that's what I was looking for going forward, to get that more information. Port City gave us a high level 20,000 foot view of, hey, best guesstimate, it'll be this and that. And yeah, they could be off by a couple million either way. Renovation's gonna be more than new, but it is what it is. If that's where everybody wants to go, if the town wants it, then that's the direction we need to go. Again, I don't wanna stall anything.
No, that's
I
fine.
just think we're jumping ahead until we get someone to tell us the real gut feeling of this town, which direction we want to go. And I don't know if we can give numbers, Mallory, without the engineering report of
So,
we're doing a circle here right now around the drain.
so I want to ask a question and I want to see what everyone else kind of thinks. So what would you say our next step should be?
I would, so to me personally, if this was my building, if I was gonna do this, I would want an engineering report as detailed as I could get in what was wrong. Because we already have a pretty good idea of what we need to do to bring it up to code, right? We got a pretty good idea on that. But I'd like to know if they could give us a detailed report of what's wrong, so we got a really good idea of what we need to fix. And then we could have this group that we're looking to partner with from the community. They'll have that to work with along with everything else, right? Yes, we want to keep the big windows because I don't want to brick up these windows and make them smaller. It won't look right. But if the foundation's no good, no, then what do we do? That's what we need to know. So I'd like to see the detailed report. We go for the detailed report and then we'd have an idea money wise. And I don't even think it depends on money. We can just go out with a mailer to every household in South Berwick and say, there is a discrepancy between the two. Which would you rather have? The town hall restored in place or build a new one? And just get an easy yes or no. It's basically that easy. And then we can spend all the time with everybody going in the direction we want to go with it. Again, it's just,
What is our thinking?
I think we've seen really minimal website traffic for this issue. I think that we've done a lot of really great work, especially with this understanding of what our bond schedule looks like. But there's a huge need to communicate out to the public, like what's actually here, and part of that is, you know, if we're in agreement that we need more than the port city, then we need to, you know, get someone else in here and get better visibility into what's actually the bones of the building, not the design, not like, but just actually what's going on, what the current systems are comprehensively, and we've received more of that information. The elevator conversation was very helpful. And knowing that the clock is ticking down, we're seeing roof damage, we're seeing the elevator at the brink of failure, those types of things are, I'm with John, I don't wanna keep wasting months. Yeah.
I agree, I think, with where John's starting from as far as, the Port City gave us something to look at. I feel like that was a starting point, and where I get kind of lost is where we really are, what not. I feel like we've let, quite frankly, I think that we've let the lack of a better word, outcry against the Port City report dictate what we're doing. And I think that's good, but I've lost where we're at, like where the next stage is. If we do need more information, deeper dive, because that was, the Port City was just like more general type stuff. If we needed a deeper dive, then I would be willing to talk more about what that looks like and where that would actually get us down the road. But I do agree with getting the public's. In my mind, I think the public's input is necessary. But only because, yes, they're gonna be impacted, but at the end of the day, we need to understand this is gonna go to a vote that they're gonna need to support and a bond. I don't wanna do all this work. They've elected us, so in my mind, the public has said, we trust the 5 of you guys to make good decisions for our town. And in my mind, we would be saying, this is what we're putting in front of you, and it's a bond. I don't want 2 issues to go and have them both fail, or because they're not educated enough as to what we're doing. So I do think that the outreach, as far as even maybe a little deeper cost included in that question when we get to that point, because if I said, hey, let's renovate, I might be for renovation, but I might not be for the price, and I think that would be a really good bit of information to have that from the public. One thing that I do with this group here, I would like to get some clarity amongst us as to what this group is here. I was expecting that this group is a one-night deal, maybe a 2-night meeting deal, and some of the applications, people seem to think that they're going to be an advisory board, and I get a feeling it's a long-term thing, and that's not what it is in my mind. So I think we need to get some clarity around that as well.
Plain and simple, I agree, we need more public input. I think that exactly what Jeff said was going through my mind of, if we get this wrong and the townspeople vote against, you know, a bond request, then we're at square one again.
Yeah.
So, and we already know this is going to be a long process to begin with, so why make it any longer? And, I think that once we get a solid direction, that's when we could start picking apart is not the right word that I want to use, but evaluating the designs that we got from Port City, and that's where utilizing, these experts, if they might have better ideas to get them. So, long story short, yes, we need more public input and we need, we need a decision of, which way we're gonna go, I think, before we get any deeper into this.
Do you have any thoughts, Tim, or Ben? Okay, okay. So it sounds like everyone is sort of at the place where we feel like we want to first start get more public input. And in order to get, like, what am I trying to say, like, true public input, we have to have the financial piece in there as well.
I don't disagree. I mean, we can go
Okay.
with, it's gonna cost more to renovate than new. It's, if you look at anything, it's going to. But we don't know how much. And Jeff brought up an excellent point. If it's $1 million more to renovate than it is to build new, I'd say renovate. I'd have no issue with that at all, because over the course of a 30-year loan, it's nothing. If it's $4 million more to renovate, there might be some people that would say no, that would normally say yes. So I think we need some figures there, and I think to get there, we need a decent engineering evaluation of this building to start there, to tell us what the bones are, and then more from that point. And I sorry to throw a wrench in the works.
No,
tonight,
no, you're fine, I like,
It's been twisted around for a little while.
yeah, I mean, this is like, I think none of our expertise, obviously. So I guess like if we were to go out and get this additional engineering study. That. What immediately comes to mind for me is like, we just spent a bunch of money to get this high level. Information from Port City. And so then we're now potentially gonna spend. A bunch more money, still not yet having decided which way we're going,
Correct,
you know?
but I'd rather spend $100,000 now than $4 million later. Again, they elected us to sit here and come up with this. I'd rather do my homework and spend money now than regret it when we go to renovate it and we find stuff that we would have found out in a detailed analysis, right? If we find out halfway into a renovation that, again, I'll go back to the foundation, but we'll go back to the library. Right? We found out that the floors couldn't support the weight of the book. That was a huge oops. That cost us a
Was
lot of
that
money.
determined before, that was determined after, like,
Yes.
the train had left the station?
Yes, and I don't wanna have the train leave the station and us
Yeah.
going, oops, we missed this. I think it's good money. I think the Port City report was good money. I think people were upset with it because they took it as Port City was driving it home to build a new one, and look, they already made drawings, and none of that was true.
Yeah.
That was just conceptual, that they had to show us with figures based on what they were doing. And that's all we asked for. That's all we asked them to do, to give us an idea of, hey, what if? So again, yes, it's spending more money, but I think it's money well spent.
What is our budget situation in regard to that? I mean,
While she's looking that up, let me offer a couple things.
Yeah, please.
First off, I wanna give you a copy, you'll get this electronically for the council meeting next week, but I have it. This is the civil consultant report. Yeah, we just got it. And on the community center. And just take a second, brief, don't read it, but just brief it. I don't know, I have four of them.
I can browse and that. What's it, can you just give us like the 2 cents?
So the overview is, building seems to be structurally sound. The deterioration is due to the fact the building's 100 years old and it needs to be maintained. It's already done some maintenance work. Basically what he looked at, the outside was just that, it's in pretty good shape, but it needs some repairs.
Okay,
That's it.
okay.
Community center is a little more, but look at the last 2 or 3 pages. Look at the detail of work. That's what I was hoping to get out of Port City. That we didn't get. See what I'm saying? See the detail in the report? They're showing you drawings of the community center, showing you drawings of our buildings. that's civil consultants in a 7-page or 8-page report. That's what I was looking for.
Okay,
They're very detailed, they did a really good job. I'm wondering, to offer, if I may offer the council a suggestion,
go for it.
would it be worth? So, because no matter what we do, we have to follow the codes, standards and laws. Would it be worth, instead of doing a whole other RFP, we had a second bid that we didn't go with. Calling them up and saying, would you still honor your project price and do it? And see if they would do it for what, if not, then you'll have to decide what you want, and we'll have to go out to RFP. We can't not follow our process.
So you're suggesting he's back in what, February, when we did this interview with Port City, and I can't remember the other company, but
I did it tonight.
yeah, yeah. So you're suggesting that we go back to that company and say, will you honor the price that you had quoted us back however long to give us something
Or
like this?
design new questions and put it out there, we'll put out a new RFP.
I mean, I think at this point, like, and everyone, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at this point, if we were to go through this, I feel like what we're interested in is, we don't care to know more right now about like a new building. It's just about what's the scoop with this building and what would that look like, to like a much more detailed assessment of what renovating this building would look like. So, cause like our initial ask to Port City was quite high level,
Yeah,
like,
okay, so then you'd be looking at a new RFP. Well, you will at a council meeting would have to decide, just like you did last time, what do you want me to ask in the RFP? Put the RFP together, send it out. Just do like we did the RFP for Wright Pierce. Bring it back, interview the people, and if that's what we're gonna do, then we should get to that. We should move on that.
mhm.
At your next council meeting, put that on as an agenda item. Whatever it is you want for information, if that's what you decide you want, then that's what we need to, we should move to do that.
You want something more than just a square foot, right? So you're looking for more detailed.
Like, and John, and obviously anyone else can come in too, but like, I guess what I would hope in doing this would be that whatever we would be hiring someone to do through this potential RFP process, that the output of that would be, then would still be usable in the event that we were to renovate. Like that we would be able to pick that up and use it, and I don't even know if that's possible with this process, but like, I know that what Port City has given us, there's way more that needs to be determined, and
So you would want to go out, and may I ask consultant from the audience?
Sure.
My class, so I might, so you would specifically, I think, ask then for a renovation design plan and cost for this building, correct?
Right, I think a speak,
yes, go for it.
I think a process would be there's two ways we do this, there's two streets. You can have folks like us do a design, which in itself is a complex process. Or you could go out and hire a firm that becomes part of the process. And their charge is to, within a certain budget, take the program and to look at the building and then break it up into two distinct pieces. One is deferred maintenance, which the building has. Those are dollars you have to invest no matter what. And then what the dollars are to renovate the building. And, I think the other part of that
Yeah,
calculation is the first floor. If you just shell it out and rent it, I would be then talking to potential renters, have them become part of the process, because they can then become part of the design process. So there's really a lot of components here. If you break it down to logical pieces, you can actually use a good design firm to actually, for low dollars, put together a preliminary outline spec, a floor plan. The rest of the stuff is here, clear, windows, look at the wall. There's not a whole lot of wall, a lot of window. So I wouldn't, this whole insulation of the wall thing is just a mystery to me. But the windows, you put triple glazed windows there, it's gonna take a lot more energy than putting up, tearing all the walls apart, I think it's a logical step that have to be followed. The roof needs to be done, put insulation up there, then you design for solar panels in the future. I think there's a whole lot of little pieces that have to be thought through. but they're not complex. And at the end of all that, you get a dollar figure. You know, and then you can get either a construction company that does a lot of this stuff, you know, Allied Cook did it over here, you know, based on something, I don't know. I know them very well, but I don't know what they use, I didn't call them up either. I just didn't call them up. But I think it's, what do you think, it's a logical process? Yeah. That would be it, right?
Okay, so what's on the table is to go and get a detailed design plan for, and that might not be the right words, but a detailed,
I think you could phase it too.
Yeah,
So you don't, if you're trying to make a decision about newer renovation, you hire this firm for phase one, which is to come up with the renovation scope and the cost.
Mhm.
Then you've got, you know, Port City just a square foot cost, you need more detail than that, there are more options than what they showed us.
Mhm.
So you ask them for that, and then you can make your choice. Now you know how much it costs to renovate, you know, for real. And we know how much it costs for new.
yeah. And so then to come back to you, like, your suggestion, John, is like, we go and get this detailed renovation cost. I think if we feel comfortable, because new build is obviously a little bit simpler
Yep.
than renovating, then we have new build estimates from Port City, which I think we feel generally comfortable with compared to this new number that we don't yet have. And then we can put this out to the community to say, you know, hypothetically, like, are you willing to have, you know, your taxes go up whatever amount, or some type of like scenario in order to renovate or build new, and kind of pose the question that way.
I mean, we just spent money on new furnaces that we're not gonna use if we renovate this building.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're not gonna use the boilers we just put in. So, and we're gonna keep putting money in this building until we figure out what we're doing, but that's just a necessary cost of doing business. We haven't done it in 20 years, so. But yeah, that's really what I was looking for.
you know,
What you guys wanna do?
one more time. But you could do that. I think the deferred maintenance items in this building, that if you did them, it would make the building that much more valuable in the future. Because you're adding a value added item. It's not like you're painting the walls and here for the paint, but if you do a, you know, infrastructure piece, like a mechanical or electrical infrastructure element, that becomes part of the value added. So it provides a higher cost when you do sell the building, if you decide to go that direction.
Correct. Yeah, right, if we go the other direction, we build new and we sell it, it will sell easier to do, yes.
Right, I'm just throwing it out there.
Mallory, I have here the CIP number that we have for the municipal buildings, 231,000.
For this fiscal year, or just,
That's what
That's
we
just
have
what the-
right now.
got it, okay,
We had added 90,000 into that for this fiscal year. So
Okay.
it's been holding.
is this what we wanna do?
Can money be used towards that at all? Or
And what?
if there's good money, can that help fund any of that, or?
I don't know, I'd have to ask Denise, and we'd have to ask the lawyer.
Yeah, I don't believe so, but we can double check.
What is that new law, a new law, is that, I don't know.
There's a piece of it that does talk about admin and municipal
Right.
buildings.
Admin and municipal buildings, what it refers to.
Okay.
We don't know what that identifies, we'll find out.
We can learn more about it.
We need to also stop doing the tip every time we need $5, because sooner or later that fund's gonna be empty, because we keep using it for everything. So if we got the money in the CIP, let's use it what it's for. I struggle every time we go to do something and oh, tip dollars will pay for it. Well, that means every year that's less than the tip fund.
It's
But,
growing.
but money,
I understand it's growing, but we're also taking it away because we're paying salaries out of it every year. So, and my frugal New Englander comes out sometimes, I'm sorry.
I feel like my inclination is to say that this is not something we could use the TIF funds, at least like the existing TIF funds for. I feel like we talked about this before, maybe. But so regardless, we've got 200-some thousand in CIP for this type of stuff. How much did the Port City assessment cost? Do you remember?
Around 45.
45, so something like this would obviously be more than that.
I don't,
Yeah.
I don't know, I have a gut feeling that no, because you're not asking them to do two projects, you're only asking them to do
Do
one.
one.
But I don't know, again, we have to put it out, you'll have to come up with what is it you want me to do, to ask?
Mhm.
Then I'll reach out to I have several experts here in the room that could get how the question should be phased. And then put that out as an RFP.
I mean, I would certainly feel more comfortable doing this, because then I feel like it gives us very like specific information that is derived from a very formal process to then move forward with. Which,
I would buy a house without a home inspection. so
Yeah.
I wouldn't wanna do this without
yeah,
putting some more money in, unfortunately.
so this is our, if like, there's general consensus from the council that this is our new direction, then I feel like our next course of action is to next week on our agenda, whatever we need to have in order to move forward for this more detailed renovation assessment and design.
If I may.
Yeah.
I'd recommend that that's the next discussion we have tonight. What is that question gonna look like?
Okay.
Let's, instead of doing it, we can make the final decision, because if you give me direction tonight, I will craft the questions for you so that you can vote, change, do whatever you wanna do, but while we have some experts in the room, I would ask you, we have to do an RFP, on that amount of
We
money,
can
I
help.
have to do an RFP.
Thanks.
So I would encourage you tonight to get as much information prepared, with some idea of how you want your question and what it is you're looking for, so that you can give me direction to craft it. Or you can give me direction, you can do some examples of, so that we get exactly, because what we, you know, as the council remembers, you crafted the questions for the last RFP, because that was, you gave me that direction and we did it. So I just need to have you tell me what it is you want me to do. And then I'll craft some stuff, and at the council meeting next week, you can pick what you wanted to say. Then I can get the RFP out and get started.
So I think we wanna make sure that we like have clear expectations and clearly articulate what it is we're looking to get back at the end of this. So is everybody cool with us switching gears towards this path? Yeah,
I think, just with the input, it helped, however, it also confused things a little for me in the sense of talking about a design. In my mind, would be an RFP for information, not a guarantee that they're going to help us move on to the next phase in the actual building.
see, I feel like because of the level of detail, I think if I understand correct, where everyone's saying, because of the level of detail we'd be looking to get from this next round, like, and this is what I was saying, of like, I would hope that this effort to get this additional information is something that if we do end up moving forward renovating can be used. And I don't know if like from a process standpoint, if that makes sense to be able to say like, hey, company, we'd like for you guys to come in and do an assessment of this building. We don't know for certain yet if we're for sure going to renovate, but we'd like to hire you to do that initial assessment, and then if we do decide to renovate, carry it forward beyond that. I don't know if that's a standard practice.
Kind of a halfway, you can't bake the cake halfway,
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you can't, I'm saying you have to, I have two questions though, so did Oak Point do as been digital set of drawings for the building?
Did what?
Did Port City do an as-built, a digital plan for a building?
no,
So they what did they use to generate the little plan? I would ask them if they did generate as-built CAD plans for the building, that you would like to have the digital copy of that. Okay, because they must have used it they must have something. They must have come and did they ever measure the building?
They
You
had the
never know,
plans
you
of
know?
this building.
But,
They had the copy of the plans of this building.
so they use that then to digitize the building. So they have those plans, they should get those digital file, okay? Elevations, plans, sections, whatever they created as part of their digital image. You do the work, that's yours, that belongs to you. So get that, that'll help in the process.
okay,
And the second part of this is, your question is well taken, because, if you're gonna do this correctly, you really have to correctly. You can't just sort of have a half-baked sort of design. It's gotta be a design that's worked through, that makes logical sense, and it has, a demolition to it, so so people can actually bid demo of systems, can actually look at floor plans and have an outline specification, enough information that you can actually get a real number for the work.
Then are we asking for an architectural design for design build? Is that what I'm asking for? But potentially, they're gonna come in, a renovation design for design build.
Right, but they're gonna do a concept plan. It's not a bid set, it's not a construction set. It's
Conceptual design for a town hall renovation.
It's a conceptual design that has all the components of a conceptual design. It has, all the necessary information about systems. Okay, you just got systems, you just got floor plans, materials, methods. You have the basis that somebody can actually do a takeoff of the building, a contractor, and come back with a ballpark number.
So that would be a conceptual design for build later, correct?
Correct, and you could use that either to go and hire somebody else, you could engage the firm to go ahead and then finish the project and bid the work and then oversee the work.
Okay, so that process sort of like leaves it, there's the decision point post conceptual plan of who's gonna carry the work forward.
Right.
I think that's different than what Jeff was imagining, but it has to be, we already have a square foot cost to renovate this building, just high level. We've already got that number. There's a different number, there's a different project out there. So what is it? What actually are we doing to each of these floors? And you need to know that in order to get a real cost. So I think you do need to get to concept level design and, schematic or design development level cost estimate. And we do that all the time.
Thank you.
Barbara.
I know I normally wouldn't speak, but something that you all need to be aware of. This building is tied legally to elections. You must have state approval to move your polling place. And our town charter states that all municipal elections are held at the same place as state elections. So just something to think about. Are you gonna design an election hall in this building? That's up to you, but something that you would want in that plan.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you do you want the election hall on the first floor, which makes more sense than the third? Just putting it out there.
Actually, with Barbara making that statement about putting it on the first floor. When we're talking about conceptual design, a lot of residents were wondering why the town clerk wasn't on the first floor in the design that we were given from Port City. So in reaching out to a professional firm, we have to remember, this is the people's building. And not that we would, it has to be reconstructed or restored, what makes sense fiscally, first and foremost, and, and structurally. But how much input is going to be received from the citizens of what they want the building to be renovated to. So I don't know if that's something to consider or how we would approach that, or if the professionals tell us what works best with traffic flow, or, then obviously they're the professionals, so it's just thoughts to consider of the conceptual plan.
My initial reaction to that is like, if we open the floodgates to the entire community, what do you guys want in this building? It's gonna become impossible to make decisions as to what's actually inside. I think that we need to feel really solid on some foundational pieces, or what are our biggest priorities with that? I think Barbara's point about the election being on the first floor, to me, this is 100% my opinion, but I would prioritize that over putting the clerk on the first floor if there was a reason that we couldn't do both. I think we need to come up with what are our key priorities, given what we know about what happened, what needs to happen in the building, but then also what we kind of learn from the public and stuff, but I don't know that we can necessarily have somebody like involved at that point from the public.
I'm sure you would get a lot of opinions.
Exactly.
We had many with retail space, but we need a floor and a half for the town hall. So either we make a floor and a half between 2 and 3, or make a floor and a half between 2 and 1, and then this stays the way it is for what we use it for. But retail space, being a town, I don't wanna be a landlord. Cause you never get anywhere being a landlord.
If you're gonna include the space that we have sitting here tonight, whether that's downstairs or upstairs, we will need all three.
Yeah.
We will need, there will be no retail space, it'll be, if you need to vote here and you need to make accommodation with staff, expansion, storage, the rest of the world going forward for the next 100 years, that we will occupy this, whether they like it or not.
Yeah.
You know, building, the town of Southborough, people are not leaving in droves, we're approving 35 home subdivisions. They're coming from somewhere and they're moving here, and, you know, fire calls are up, police calls are up, services, ambulance calls are up. You know, things, so, you know, the reality is, one of the things you gotta look at is make sure we don't build a project that is full the day we move in like we did the fire station.
Can I interrupt for a second again? If you keep this floor the way it is, you know, then you got paint and finishes and mechanical and windows. You have to have that anyway. But you're not renovating the space. It is the way, you get rid of the creaky floors, you can fix that. But it would stay the same. I mean, you could turn the heat down, turn the air conditioning down, and then use it whenever you have to. And then down below becomes your operating space. But this is kind of free space because you're not renovating it. It is what it is. And once you insulate better windows and better roof up there and put better mechanicals in here, you know, if you're not spending $500 or $300 or $200 a square foot, you're spending minimal dollars per square foot. So you're actually, the sandwich becomes much easier to deal with, just saying it out loud.
Yeah, thank you.
Where does displacement of current staff fit into this piece? This would be just a piece of figure out the building, but there's an added cost that will definitely become part in this. And is that how do we go about doing that? How do we go about a quote for that? I don't even.
I'm gonna consult the expert, Mike or Ken, do you guys have?
Yeah, that would be part of the total project cost, and that's what you would ask your design team for. We need a total project cost, so that's the hard cost, construction cost, and then soft cost, design fees, legal, moving, phasing, all that stuff has to be factored in. And, you know, Port City took a stab at that, they included some of those soft costs in there, but you know, that's pretty standard. It's just the language, you gotta be specific about the language. You don't want a construction cost estimate, you want a total project cost estimate. And, you know, in there needs to be a sentence or a paragraph about a logistics plan for continued operations.
There are two parts to that. One part is the construction cost. The other part is soft cost. If you just say you have trailers or something at the rent, it's supposed to be your cost as opposed to feeding it through the construction management company. That we're saving 20–30% of overhead. So, you know, there are gonna be owner things like furniture and fittings, and then also like temporary facilities. That becomes your package, and then there's over here, then the construction package.
Okay. On the relocation piece, I have a question for Barbara. The relocation thing kind of gives me anxiety because I feel like where are they gonna go? Where would we go? And I know, like York, for example, their town office is like kind of hodgepodge all over the place right now because they're under renovation. I think by law, we have to stay within Maine, right? Like because it's very obvious, like from a space standpoint, like Dover, Somersworth, seems like there might be some more better opportunities for like a temporary relocation, but I don't.
Yeah,
No,
if we were out of state, we would not be able to notarize anything, we would not be able to do anything with vital records, issue marriage licenses.
No, we can't operate outside the state. You cannot
That's what I thought. Thank you.
And, what, Barbara, you probably noticed, even with if a renovation was the case, speaking about voting for November and June, would that be action that we would need to take immediately to sort of prep for that,
I believe they just shortened the time period for the state process to change your polling place. I think you have to have it done 60 days before the election.
Okay,
So in the event that we were to renovate and need to be temporarily elsewhere during an election, which would be unfortunate, but it would not be the end of the world because we could make that change.
Yes, can I?
Yeah, of course.
I promise I won't hold you guys to this, but I'm just curious, with kind of knowing what we're looking for, in both being parts of firms, what would a price range of this service be, just so when we extend an RFP, it won't be sticker shock, you know, when it comes in.
Don't answer that question.
Not holding you to it, I'm just
Don't
curious.
answer that question. Do not answer that
Yeah, I
question,
think we
please.
just need to.
And I hate to cut you off, but do not answer that question,
I wasn't
please,
going to.
because, okay,
It'd be like asking, you take your car in for a service and it's making a lot of noise, what's it gonna cost to fix it? Well, here's the good part first, let you know.
that will end what bad for everybody involved.
Are you asking how much would the building renovation be, or how much would
How much would the
this
RFP
design-
be?
this
How much
design
would
be?
it, that, yeah, so I just, whatever, I'll just wait till the information comes
The
in, I
the
guess.
RFP can work two different ways. You can ask for, you can do RFQ, ask for a request for qualifications. And then you get maybe a scrum of people, and then you go through them and you say, these are 4 or 5 that have done a lot of this kind of work. They have a really good reputation doing, communal projects, restoration projects. You bring them in and interview them. And then you ask them to come in the RFP. Then once they know what the scope of work is, that way what you can do is you can fine tune it and really focus it down on what you want to have, as opposed to just going out there and getting a ballpark number. So I would do that process, RFQ first. That way you could get, the work, ones who are really qualified to the work, and then take them and have them produce an RFP, proposal for the scope of work to achieve the goals that you want to have. And then you work with them after that.
Okay, so it seems like we're heading in a direction where we want to put out an RFP for a total project cost estimate, including a logistics plan for existing operations. What else should we include in that? Like, is there, like, from a language standpoint, if you have any other suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be careful about that logistics plan, because phasing might be an option, is there a way to phase this project? You'd have to get into it, so phasing and or logistics plan for continued operations. Total project cost, as we talked about.
I think there are a couple of steps before we get to a real RFQ. Maybe the RFQ could go out this fall, and then you get folks in January, February, and then you do an RFP. But I think prior to all that, there has to be kind of like a big picture view here that everybody has a consensus on. Sort of general scope of what we feel makes a lot of sense, how to approach the project. So we put this out there. We also give them enough information about what we're thinking as a community here and what we want to achieve. And that we're looking for cost-effective solutions, but they're also long-term and dynamic enough that they address energy, they have quality of life and environment, things like that. But I think, we need to kind of come up with a language. It's going to take a while to parse that together from bits and pieces from other RFPs that we know.
Budget. So what is your target budget? If we can build new for 6 million or whatever it was, isn't that what you want your budget to be for this? Could you get this to be a cost equivalent project? They may say no, but if you give them that target, if that's a goal of the project, that you can then compare apples to apples, you should say it in the RFP, so that they know that they've got a target.
And if he leaves the space up here pretty much as is, they'll go a long way. The reality, this building is 20 gross thousand square feet. But in renovation work, you don't take the gross, you take the net square footage. Because the walls and stairways, the shaft, are existing, and they don't really count. So if you reduce the building down to the net square footage, you're more like 16,500 square feet. And if you do 2 floors, then all of a sudden you reduce that down to 12,000 square feet, which now becomes closer to the square footage you've been looking at in the past. Okay, so there's all kinds of ways of parsing that. You may have few things that move up here that aren't used that often, but you begin to use what you have that works and fix things that don't work. And make sure that people like Barbara are happy.
So what's that do for codes though? Because once we go over half the worth of the building, right, we're gonna be we have to bring everything up to code. So that includes this floor.
Well, I think we have to bring everything up to,
Well,
I
you
think
do it anyway. You would
we
want to.
should do that.
Right, so there's gonna be intrusive work up here to bring things up to code.
Well, what?
I don't, the metric is plant replacement value, PRV. The plant replacement value is not the assessed value of the property. The plant replacement value is what it would be if to build new. So you can go up to 50% of your plant replacement value before certain codes kick in. So if this exact building were to be built, brick facade, new building, what does that cost? Take half of that, and then that's where it goes. There are also historic, existing building codes that give you some leniency. So again, you get a good designer in here who knows renovation projects, they're gonna steer you through this. We're completely gutting a 1920s brick facade building. And we don't have to do the seismic upgrade, because even though we're completely gutting it, we threaded the needle on the plant replacement value for that. So, it's possible.
Okay.
Anyway, there's a lot of, as you can see, there's a lot of pieces here that if you kind of talk through.
Yeah.
To come to, to sort of understand what the individual scope pieces are and how they sort of knit together to sort of create an RFP out there, the story about what we want to do. We want to make a story that's clear, understandable, and let them know how they can finish the story and what we're looking for in simple layman terms.
So things like, we would ask for this total project cost estimate with, we could put out like a target budget. We want to make sure to account for a bigger clerk's office, a election space, like, those types of things. Is that what you mean?
You could give them the Port City report as a jumping off point. They did, presumably they did some interviews and found what your space needs were, give them that program document. That's a huge head start and a cost savings for you.
Right. So there's a lot, that's why going back to this question from Port City, did they digitize the floor plan to generate some of their iterations that they have in this building here? But that would save money also.
I don't think they did, Mike. They just,
Yeah.
we have what they did. You can come look at it.
Okay.
It's just like a floor plan,
It looks like they just copied the floor plan and just,
change the insides. I left the walls.
They scanned it in and then they just placed stuff in there.
Right.
Got it, okay. All right. I think my old office has, the first floor digitized. So we have a digitized shell. So, we could see what else we can sort of find. We have that somewhere.
What other things do we feel like we would for sure want to account for with a potential renovation to like sort of include as I don't know, requirements?
I'm just looking for this, nuts and bolts, mechanicals,
Yeah.
all of them.
Okay, I've taken a bunch of notes. Is there anything else? I think I can kind of smush together some of the notes that I've taken this evening to kind of give us at least like a starting point for some RFP language that maybe we can refine next week? Does that work?
Yeah, I'd like to, if you don't mind, I'd like to call on you two to help get some language or some stuff. You know more about, a lot more than I do. So if you could guide me for a few of the things that we're
It would
looking
take
for.
more than a week.
I was gonna say, if it's a rush, then hold off
You
until,
know,
Yeah.
I think, I think if you could put together RFP language in a month,
Okay,
you know, a month from now, you know, would be not unreasonable, a month to 6 weeks. So think about it, you know, and then you put it in the street, you know, sometime in December, into November. You know, then you get like, give them 6 to 8 weeks, you know, and then we can give a number of names of people to send it to.
okay. So if we shoot to try to get this RFP together,
Is the, so the RFP is the RFP, I get that. What are you gonna do about, are you still planning on doing something for a questionnaire for the public? Or are you gonna hold off? I mean, I'm at,
whatever the residents of like, what do you prefer?
yeah, I mean, because a lot of the emotion that you saw here, and absolutely, we have to look at it fiscally, but, you know, a lot of the people in the audience are not, they're doing it emotionally. So does it still make sense to do? And I'm asking, I don't know, does that make sense or not make sense to do do a mail and just ask the question, I guess? And you should be more in favor if 1,000 people respond back, they want the town hall to stay here. No matter what the cost, and regardless, no sense looking at doing any different, I don't know. I'm just asking, just trying to move the process forward.
Yeah. I mean, I think like what we've talked about thus far this evening, that would come sort of after we get the output from the RFP, where we have that more specific number. That would be like a future us thing, I guess. But speaking for myself, I mean, given the public input and stuff that we received at the public hearing, I mean, it's. And elsewhere, like, it seems like from those that are really invested in it, everyone really would like for us to stay here. And so there's part of me that's like, if we're gonna go down this path and spend this money, should we just commit to the renovation path? So,
again, we're a council of 5, 4 at the moment,
yeah,
Jessica's
no,
online.
that was me.
Yeah, that's right, and I don't feel. I'm not gonna make a decision either way without getting better input from the public on what direction they wanna go. Because I've watched this over the last 9 years of people coming here in small select groups to get what they want. Versus what the rest of the town also wanted, but they don't wanna come because they have things.
So if I think about this from like a timing standpoint, if we're gonna go down this RFP path. I feel like it's not outside the realm of possibilities to think that we could have. That information back in time to actually put this on the ballot next June. And then we're not creating like extra elections, but we're putting it out there
Yes,
from like, just like.
that should be done, yeah, I think
Yeah.
so, absolutely.
And then that gives us specific, then at that point, we would be able to have specific numbers to put out there, so we can craft the question appropriately. Granted, it's June, which doesn't tend to be like a high turnout time, but I think that we could do a lot of work between now and then to make sure we get decent turnout.
I'm concerned about putting it on the ballot for June. Only because if we did this, I think this will give us a good information on basically what will turn this building. But we need to talk about what that question looked like, because it's asking the public to approve a bond.
No, this would be. this would just be a question of like. Because the bond, and correct me if I'm wrong, the bond payment, he would still have to come later at like an annual town
Yeah,
meeting.
the bond payment's gonna come at the town meeting. This question is basically gonna give us, so you got 1,300 and some odd back from the comprehensive plan survey,
Mhm.
right? Which is a great turnout. June election probably won't have 1,300 people.
Primary, yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's a primary this year, so sorry, if it wasn't a primary, we might not have 1,300 people, but I
There's a
think you're gonna.
primary,
I think you're gonna
Primary
get, I
large.
think we'll get more bang for our buck spending the money, sending a mailer out to every house, because if we send a mailer out to every house. Nobody can say I didn't get it, nobody can say I didn't take part, or the absentee ballot didn't work, or I voted this way, or I wasn't in town. If we mail it to their house. They have a chance to be part of the solution. And if they don't take that opportunity, I'm sorry, but we did everything we could do, sending them a mailer. I think we send them a mailer. And it's basically just gonna say, if we wait until we get the numbers back. It's gonna be an estimate of this much to renovate the town hall, it'll be an estimate of this much to build new. Which direction would you like to go? Answer yes or no next one, and they come back, and then we go that direction, and then we'll go to the town meeting and craft the bond and the rest, but. That's all it's doing is a yes or no for us to tally those numbers to see that 2,000 people in town want us to renovate it. Or 700, something better than 165.
Are there any like legal considerations or anything?
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm just waiting for you guys to figure out what it is, but an RFQ, so for Mike to, get caught up to speed, so with us in public sector now, save time, we can wrap the RFQ, the attorney will wrap the RFQ right into the RFP. We'll put the qualifications all in there together, so it comes out as one, so that you can't bid on it if you don't have previous qualifications to do that. Saves us a little bit of time, but the RFP, if you're gonna be specifically asking them for a design, I'll call it a design build, but I don't know, whatever, for conceptual design that you could use later.
It would probably be design, construction managed.
A what?
It would be a construction managed project.
Construction managed project.
CM project, probably.
So the kicker is that if you're gonna put it out to bid with the intent to potentially use them later, you keep going in the project. So if you say, listen, we wanna bid this out, and you're gonna bid this project, and then you will go from phase 1 to phase 2. Knowing that, then that RFP would go to the lawyers for final language development. You know, the last one we did not, it was just, I mean, I banged it off Phil. That was very generic, because we were at 30,000 feet. This one, if you're specifically looking to design this building, renovate this building, do all this stuff, and you're looking for almost like a bid number.
Yeah.
And you're being very specific on what you want, that'll end up at legal.
Yeah,
They'll have to do a review on it.
So we can set it like this, the RFQ portion would be first, and then if we go through, we'd open up then the RFP portion, that's also done.
The legal question that, like, for sure for the RFP process, but I'm curious on like the survey kind of concept, if there's like legal. And we probably don't really know the answers to that question, but is there any like legal implications to us proposing like a survey to people and then basing a decision off of it?
No, not as long as you don't ask them to approve, you can't ask them to like vote on a number
Yeah.
by mail or anything like that. No, a mailer is just
Opinion.
it's just a questionnaire. It has no legal binding authority.
Okay.
Binding authority is the town hall votes or ballot votes.
Okay, and then we could use that as like a data point in our decision. Do we feel like that's our go forward process is RFP, let's get this final number, and then once we have it, we'll do some sort of community survey again? Does that work for you?
And just as a question, because you brought it up, as far as the next phase would be, you know, Joe Schmo comes and does this this part, and like you said, legal would write it in that this is, it would be two parts. One part is to create it. And the second part would be you do it. If we move forward with that, right?
that would be up to you folks, that's that's part of the council decision.
Yeah, I think we'd have to like,
I don't wanna someone come in and be like, yeah, we got this deal, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna go and renovate, and when we haven't made that decision yet. But we need to know that,
yeah, it's like the chicken and egg.
right?
I think one of the kind of criteria that we need to account for in this RFP, and I think consulting with legal is a must, is that type of scenario of like, we want to understand this information to help us make this decision, and then after the decision is made, if we continue on with the renovation, like, are we committed to having that firm continue the project forward, or can we build in there kind of a point where we can decide if we want to continue with that firm or potentially go out for someone else for the actual like,
Construction.
yes, thank you.
I'm personally, I'm fine with making it all that one person that gets that bid, as long as there's a gap between that phase 1 and 2 for that decision.
Oh, for sure.
You know,
There has to,
Yeah,
there has to be, the town has, before we can give it to them, the town has to vote.
Yeah, we have to get
In May.
approval for
And we're
the,
not gonna be voting this May on this.
yeah.
So this is already pushing to 25 before we do it.
So if we kind of high level push this out, so we do this RFP, we interview, we gather applicants, we have someone do and provide this project estimate. They do that back to us. We formulate a question to put out to the community, we get those results back, then we decide, we vote as a council of like, we're going this way or that way.
Mhm.
Then, after that, we would then have to go for a bond and ask the community to support the funds for that. Keep me honest if I'm missing anything in this process. We'd have to get approval from the community at a annual town meeting to pay for the project. Then we would do like another RFP process to then hire who's actually gonna do the work. Right,
Unless you chose the people
who
who
did
did
the,
phase 1.
got it,
If you said, we wanna just choose the people, we like what you did, we wanna do that, and we want you to continue.
then we wouldn't have to do an
You
RFP.
you know, you pick, you know, Kenny's Architects, and Kenny's Architects do a great job, and you like their design, and you agree with their price, and you take that to the public, and the public goes for a bond, and you say, in phase 2, we wanna just move that from the RFP now to, build design, and let them go and start that project.
Mhm. And then if we back that up again and say, we get the survey back from the community and it's, you know, then if we end up deciding to build new, then that process becomes a little bit different
Right.
than if it were to be renovating. But we could cross that bridge if we get there.
Mhm.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, okay, so I've taken notes based on input from our audience and from you all, and I'll kind of consolidate this will get posted to the website. We can use this as like a starting point for the RFP language, and we can kind of iterate over the next few weeks on that language and try to aim to get it done to get it out there by like mid-November. Do you think that's doable?
I don't know.
Okay, we don't have to put bounds on, like timelines on it yet,
Yeah, you know, we've had several, I've updated you on several staff issues that I'm working on currently, so my plate. At this moment has that in it, and some other stuff, so, possibly. I will reach out to Mike and Ken for some guidance as well. Certainly, they're the experts, they know a lot more than I do, so I'll get, you know, I'd rather be inclusive and not miss anything, and try to make sure that we get it right. I know we're at 30,000 feet of Port City, but if we're wanting to make sure that we get it right, so I'll,
yeah,
if you don't mind, you two, that, could I reach out to you and ask you to give me some suggestions of stuff that we need to put in there? that would be helpful
So
for
the
me.
goal is to shoot for the RFP back, hopefully by the end of January. Realistic time frame from now.
You know, we're talking schedule here. It'd be a really good idea to put together a realistic schedule because they're here 25, 24. So, you know, is the end goal to have the, sort of the goal is if you go out for a bond, you want to have a general guaranteed maximum price for construction manager. But GMP sort of sets the stage then for the bonding. And then sometimes when you get really close to with a CM, you can get like a pretty much a 99% at like about 80% of CD step. You know, then you begin to negotiate, you know, your bonding companies of what you would anticipate what the bond's gonna have to be. So those are all things you have to kind of work your way backwards, you know what I'm saying? It takes also a time period between getting a GMP and when the bond's actually activated. So, you know, it'd be really good to work up a realistic schedule that gives us plenty of time so that you can get all these things sorted out.
Mhm. So like if we were to say that we wanted to aim to go to our 2025 annual town meeting and have that be the point where we're asking for the bond approval? Like, is that what you mean, Mike?
Well, yeah, whenever, you know, you need to set a realistic time period when that can happen. It won't happen in June of next year,
No, yeah.
but it could happen by November of next year.
Mhm.
You know, I think what happens is that time marches on. And as you march time on, you always carry the inflation. So, you know, the longer the period takes, the more the cost increase for no reason other than inflation.
Got it.
So you really want to kind of, you want to work the time in such a way that it gives you time, realistic time, that you're not pushing things. But also you don't want to lengthen it by another half a year, where you get maybe like 3 or 4 or 5% of inflation, you know, where you're throwing money out there. You kind of want to lock in the construction manager, you know, and all his subcontractors early, begin to buy out. So you're really saving the 6 months, the 3, 4, 5% of interest that you're paying, you know, and they'll probably tack on 5 or 10%, who knows? So you really kind of have to play that reality check. But that's why the schedule is really important. And it sort of has the upfront portion, the middle portions, and then when you actually start construction, and the clock starts off with construction of the base.
Anything else anyone wants to bring up?
I've done enough, I think.
You got anything?
Sorry.
Okay. I think we're clear on what are you clear, Tim, on where our path forward?
Yeah,
Okay. We have some like refining to do for the RFP language and stuff, but.
and I'm gonna reach out to them to get some solid, concrete information that we'll need to include in the RFP. That I can deliver back to you, and at the same time, then, we'll get that.
Yeah. And I think,
I'd say shoot for a meeting in November. Don't knock yourself out. We got.
yeah. I think it's just important that we really kind of like make sure that we've accounted for everything we're looking to get out of this, in this, or like have this RFP be very specific, I think. Okay, like I said, I'll compile.
I just wanted to ask, who we want to do
Oh, yeah, the submission.
thanks for.
No, because we'll end up, we might end up getting to that, but we need the steps to get to the first floor before we get up there to talk to people. And we just need the stairs first.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think maybe we can reach out to everybody and say, you know, thank you for your interest and stuff, and this might be something, we've kind of had a little bit of a change of path, but it might be something that we might lean on in the future, yeah, once we get more information. Okay. I think that's it.
I think the next meeting is on election day.
Oh, is it? Our next workshop is,
Seventh, right, Barbara?
okay, so. That does not work. Do we wanna do? Why don't we, because, so if we're gonna, now if we're taking this path forward, I feel like. We need to get, we need to work on RFP language, which we can do through our next few council meetings. Then once we put the RFP out there, then there's not really a need for us to be. So, my inclination is sort of say, let's cancel this series,
Until we get the RFP back.
yeah. Okay, so workshop, town hall workshop is not happening, is paused until further notice, until we get more information back. Okay, we can go ahead and wrap up the workshop. Last chance, anyone? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.